You've always been the one who holds it together, the calm presence in other people's chaos. You feel what others can't even put into words, their pain, their heaviness, their unspoken emotions. You absorb it all without needing to be asked, and you do it silently, not because you don't feel overwhelmed, but because you've learned that your role is to carry, not to collapse. You're the safe place, the quiet strength, the one who understands without needing much in return. But deep down, you're tired. You're full of the emotions no one sees, the weight no one asks about, and the exhaustion no one notices. Being a Sigma empath means living in that space where your silence becomes the support system for everyone else. And the hardest part? Most people will never realize what that silence costs you. You feel everything, even what others don't say, and carry it like it's yours. You've always had this invisible radar for emotions. You pick up on the tension in a room before anyone says a word. You notice the slight shift in someone's voice, the look they try to hide, the pain they won't admit. And your instinct is to absorb it, soothe it, carry it like it's yours. Not because you want to, but because it's automatic. Being a Sigma empath means you don't just hear what people say, you feel what they hold back. And while that makes you deeply intuitive, it also means you carry a weight that no one else sees. They don't realize how exhausting it is to feel everyone's unspoken pain. You're constantly balancing your inner world with the emotions of others, and some days it's hard to tell which feelings are even yours, but you keep showing up because that's who you are, quietly strong, deeply tuned in, and rarely understood. You're always the one people turn to, but rarely the one they check on. You've become the safe place for everyone else, the one who listens, who understands, who gives without needing to be asked. People come to you when they're falling apart, and you show up fully, holding space for their chaos like it's your responsibility. But when the roles are reversed, when you're the one unraveling inside, it's quiet. No one thinks to ask how you're really doing. They assume you're okay because you make it look easy. But they don't see the effort it takes to hold it together while carrying the weight of others. You've learned to hide your exhaustion behind a calm presence, to silence your own needs because you know no one's coming to rescue you. And the hardest part? You don't expect them to anymore. You've just accepted the role, strong, steady, and invisible in your own pain, but deep down, you still wish someone would notice and stay. You absorb emotions so intensely that even a room's energy can drain you. You don't just notice the shift in a room, you feel it in your body. The tension, the unspoken anger, the sadness hiding behind someone's smile. It all hits you like a wave, even when no one says a word. You can walk into a space and immediately tell who's hurting, who's pretending, who's lying to themselves, and it stays with you. It's not just observation, it's absorption. And by the end of the day, it's like you've lived everyone else's emotions on top of your own. You feel heavy, overstimulated, emotionally raw, but you can't explain it because people who don't feel this way will never understand. They'll call you too sensitive or say you're overthinking, but this is just how your nervous system works. You don't choose it, you just try to survive it, while quietly wishing you could feel a little less, just for once. You stay quiet about your pain because you're used to being the strong one. You've built a reputation for being the strong one. The calm presence, the steady hand, the person others rely on when things fall apart. And somewhere along the way, you started believing that your pain had no place in the conversation. You learnt to swallow it, hide it, minimize it, because if you broke down, who would hold everything together? You became so used to showing up for others that you forgot how to show up for yourself. And even when the weight got unbearable, you stayed quiet. Not because you didn't feel it, but because you didn't want to let anyone down. You didn't want to be seen as fragile or needy, so you kept holding it in until silence became your coping mechanism. But just because you don't speak about your pain doesn't mean it's not real. It just means you've learned to carry it alone. You give people space to vent while silencing your own needs to not burden them. You've become the safe space for everyone else, the person who listens without judgment, who absorbs pain without making it about yourself. And because of that, people come to you when they're hurting, when they need to unload. You give them room to breathe, to cry, to scream, but when it's your turn to speak, something stops you. Maybe it's guilt, maybe it's fear, Maybe it's that deep-rooted belief that your needs are too much, or that sharing them would only make others uncomfortable. So you stay quiet, you smile and nod, you carry their weight while burying your own. And the worst part is no one realizes you're doing it, because you've become so good at showing up for others that they forget you need someone to show up for you too. You've mastered the art of appearing calm while fighting emotional storms inside. On the outside, you seem unshakable, calm, steady, the one who has it all together. But inside, there are days when the emotional weight is almost unbearable. You feel things deeply, process every interaction and question if you're doing enough, giving enough, being enough, but you never let it show. You've learned how to keep your voice steady, your face neutral, and your presence comforting, even when your heart is unraveling. It's not that you're faking it, it's survival. It's the quiet strength of someone who's been the emotional anchor for too long. You don't fall apart publicly because you've convinced yourself there's no room for that. So you hold it in, hoping someone might look past the surface and see what you're really carrying. But most don't. They just see calm, never realizing it's a calm you had to fight like hell to create. You rarely ask for help, not because you don't need it, but because you expect silence in return. You've trained yourself not to ask for help, not because you think you can handle everything alone, but because experience has shown you what happens when you do. The silence, the slow replies, the vague responses that say, figure it out yourself. So over time, you stopped reaching out. You learned how to patch yourself up without anyone noticing. You became your own comfort, your own safe place, because expecting someone else to show up only left you disappointed. And even though you still long for someone to truly be there, to offer support without being asked, you've accepted that not everyone is built to carry what you do. So you stay silent even when it hurts, because that silence feels safer than the pain of unmet needs. You've learned to disconnect emotionally just to protect your mental peace. You didn't start off detached, you cared deeply. You felt every word, every shift in energy, every unspoken tension. But over time, that constant emotional exposure left you drained. So you adapted. You learned that caring too much in the wrong environment costs your peace. That giving all your emotional energy to people who don't reciprocate will leave you empty. So now you protect yourself by pulling back. You still feel, but from a distance. You still care, just not at the expense of your sanity. It's not coldness, it's survival. You've learned to draw invisible lines between your heart and the chaos around you, because if you don't, no one else will. Emotional detachment isn't weakness. For you, it became strength. It became peace. You carry the weight of others' healing while postponing your own. You've always been the one who listens, supports, and helps others piece themselves back together, and in doing so, you've quietly put your own healing on hold. It's not that your wounds don't matter, it's that you've convinced yourself there's no space for them. You push your pain to the side so you can be strong for someone else. You show up even when you're running on empty, and the world applauds your strength, without realizing it's built on self-sacrifice. But deep down, you know. You've been carrying everyone's pain while leaving your own untouched. You've been helping others process emotions you've never had the chance to face yourself. That's the silent cost of being a Sigma empath. Healing others becomes your default, while your own healing is something you keep postponing for later. But that later rarely comes, unless you choose it. You crave to be held the way you hold others, deeply, quietly, and without question. You give your presence so fully, without asking for anything in return, that people forget you need comfort too. You hold others through their storms with patience, softness, and silence, but deep down, you ache for someone to do the same for you. Not with loud promises or shallow gestures, but with a quiet kind of love that sees you, holds you, and doesn't ask you to explain. You long for someone who understands the weight you carry without needing the details. Someone who won't tell you to be strong, but will just sit beside you when you're tired of being strong alone. You crave that same depth of care you give so freely, the kind that says, you don't have to hold it all by yourself anymore, because even the strongest empaths need to feel safe too. If you've ever wondered, when will someone hold space for me the way I do for everyone else? You're not alone in that question. Does that longing feel familiar to you? If it does, maybe it's time to start choosing yourself too. Subscribe if you want more content that speaks to the part of you the world keeps overlooking.